My name is Olivia Harper, and I work as a housemaid at the Blackwood Estate, an opulent mansion veiled in secrets, corruption, and blood. From the outside, it's a palace of wealth and grandeur, boasting marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a garden so vast it could be a kingdom of its own. But beneath that shimmering facade, something dark festers. The Blackwood family is a twisted web of power struggles, resentment, and quiet hatred. The patriarch, Vincent Blackwood, is a formidable figure, a wealthy businessman with deep ties to illegal operations. His current wife, Camilla, is breathtakingly beautiful but dangerously ambitious. A woman who smiles like a queen but carries venom behind her lips. She doesn't just want Vincent's wealth, she wants complete control, and she sees his first wife's children as obstacles to be eliminated. Vincent's first wife, Eleanor, died of an illness years ago, leaving behind two children, 19-year-old Catherine and 17-year-old Daniel. Unlike their father, they have soft hearts, unwanted remnants of a woman long gone. Camilla despises them. Her only concern is her own son, Adrian, her 15-year-old heir to the Blackwood Empire. She grooms him with her same cold-blooded ambition, molding him into the kind of man who will one day rule with an iron fist. And then there's me. I've worked at the estate for 2 years. It's a good-paying job, and I keep my head down. Or at least, I did, until I uncovered the truth. Daniel Blackwood is dead. Officially, it was an accident, a tragic misfortune that left the young man lifeless in his bedroom. The coroner ruled it a heart failure. But I know better. Because I saw it. I saw Camilla Blackwood standing over his bed, her delicate fingers wrapped around a small glass vial, its contents spilled onto his lips. A few drops of a poison that left no trace, silent, clean, untraceable. I stood frozen in the dim hallway that night, my breath caught in my throat. My hands trembled as I clutched my cleaning cloth, unseen behind the half-closed door. She didn't notice me. She walked away, composed, untouched by guilt. I wanted to scream, but what could I do? Who would believe a maid over the lady of the house? The weight of the secret gnawed at my soul, suffocating me, poisoning my sleep. Every time I passed Daniel's now empty bedroom, I felt sick. The mansion that once seemed grand now felt like a prison, its walls pressing in on me. I started drinking, just enough to numb the anxiety, to keep the nightmares at bay. And then, I met him. It was a late evening, and I had just finished my shift. My hands shook as I grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the liquor aisle of a small market. As I turned, lost in my thoughts, my basket swung wildly and crashed into someone. The bottles tumbled to the floor, shattering on impact. Shit! I gasped, stepping back as the strong scent of alcohol filled the air. Then, I saw him. He stood there, blinking down at his now-soaked jeans and stained white shirt. His expression flickered between mild irritation and amusement. "Well, damn," he muttered, shaking droplets from his leather jacket. I don't remember asking for a whiskey shower. I felt my face flush. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking. He exhaled sharply, but there was no real anger in his eyes, just something sharp and knowing, like he could see straight through me. His lips curled into a smirk. Rough day? I swallowed hard. Something like that. He crouched, picking up a broken bottle by its neck, examining it like it was some kind of artifact. Well, sweetheart, if you're gonna waste perfectly good booze, at least have the decency to let me take you out for a drink to make up for it. I should have laughed. I should have told him no. But there was something about his presence, something easy and confident, but also dangerous. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel completely alone. His name was Jack. I didn't know anything else about him yet. But I knew he was trouble. The kind of trouble I wanted to get lost in. The morning after that stormy night with Jack felt surreal. As I lay curled up against his chest, his slow, steady breathing was the only sound in my tiny apartment. My mind, however, was anything but calm. The moment I had been avoiding, the reality of what I had confessed to him, hit me like a freight train. Jack stirred slightly, his hand lazily running through my hair. "Morning, babe," he murmured. "Did you sleep at all?" I hesitated before answering. "Not much. My mind won't shut off." He propped himself up on his elbow, looking at me with that same piercing gaze from last night, the one that made me feel like he could see right through me. "We need a plan," he said simply. I swallowed. "Jack, this isn't just about me anymore. If they find out, I know. If they find out, you know." He smirked, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "That's why we play it smart, Olivia. You said the house is huge, full of blind spots. That means opportunities." I sat up, hugging my knees. "Yeah, but how do we get you in without suspicion?" Jack leaned back against the headboard, thinking. "You said the gardener got sick, right? What if he gets sicker? Just for a little while?" My eyes widened. "Jack, what are you thinking?" He gave me an almost playful grin. "Relax. I don't need to hurt the guy. Just convince him he needs a vacation. A well-paid one. And in the meantime, I take his spot." I chewed on my lip, my heart hammering in my chest. "You'd be working right under her nose. If she even suspects anything." Jack placed a hand over mine, his expression darkening. "She won't. Not yet. But trust me, Olivia, when I'm done, she'll wish she never laid a finger on that kid." 2 days later, Jack was officially the new gardener at the mansion. He played the part well, rolled up sleeves, dirt under his nails, always keeping his head down just enough to seem unimportant but not suspicious. I'd watch him from the upstairs window as he moved through the estate grounds, careful, calculated. He was waiting, watching, planning. But I wasn't the only one watching him. Camilla, the woman who had murdered my young master, the woman who had slithered her way into this family with nothing but greed and ambition, had noticed Jack, too. And she was interested. One evening, I saw her lingering near the garden as he worked, a glass of wine in her perfectly manicured hand. She said something, and Jack chuckled. My stomach twisted. She was testing him, playing her dangerous little games. I clenched my fists. Jack could handle himself. But I had seen firsthand what that woman was capable of. And something told me she wouldn't hesitate to sink her claws into him, too. That night, when Jack slipped into my apartment after his shift, I confronted him immediately. "She was talking to you. What did she say?" He smirked, unbuttoning his shirt. "Jealous already?" I folded my arms. "Jack." His smirk faded slightly, and he sighed. "She's curious about me." I played dumb, gave her some story about drifting from town to town. She bought it, for now. But she's smart, Olivia. She's testing the waters. I swallowed hard. We're running out of time, aren't we? Jack ran a hand through his hair, his jaw tightening. Yeah. And I need to get inside that house. There's something in there, proof, maybe. Something that ties her to the murder. If I can get into her room, or her office. That's impossible, I cut in. She never leaves anything out in the open. And the security system. Then I guess I'll have to get a little closer to her. I froze. What? Jack shrugged. She's interested in me, Olivia. And if that's my ticket inside. No. My voice was sharp, surprising even me. Jack, you don't have to. He stepped closer, tilting my chin up to meet his gaze. I know what I'm doing. But I need you to trust me. I searched his face, my heart pounding. Jack wasn't just playing a role. He was getting drawn in, deeper than either of us had anticipated. And I was terrified of what would happen when he finally reached the point of no return. The tension in the mansion was growing. I could feel it in the air, thick, suffocating, like a storm waiting to break. Jack had seamlessly slipped into his new role, and it was both thrilling and terrifying to watch him work. His presence had unsettled Camilla. She was sharp, always aware, and though she played the seductive game well, I could tell she didn't fully trust him. But that didn't stop her from being drawn to him like a moth to a flame. I could see it in the way she watched him, the way she spoke to him, her words laced with suspicion yet dripping with intrigue. One evening, as I was setting the dining table, I caught a glimpse of Jack in the garden, standing under the moonlight with Vincent. They were talking, but the way Vincent was looking at him, analyzing, dissecting, it sent a shiver down my spine. Jack, ever the chameleon, played his part perfectly, nodding in the right places, throwing in a joke that made Vincent chuckle, but I knew better. I knew Jack was probing, gathering intel, figuring out where to strike. Later that night, in my small servants' quarters, I felt Jack's presence before I saw him. He slipped in like a shadow, his expression unreadable. "You're getting too comfortable," I whispered, closing the door behind him. He smirked, running a hand through his hair. "Comfortable? No, sweetheart. Just getting started." I frowned. "Vincent is watching you. Camilla is too. They don't trust you." Jack stepped closer, tilting my chin up with a single finger. "Let them watch. That's part of the fun." My breath hitched. I hated how easily he affected me, how effortlessly he took control. But I couldn't ignore the gnawing fear in my gut. "Jack, if they find out why you're really here." "They won't." His voice was steady, confident. "Not until it's too late." I swallowed hard, nodding. There was no turning back now. The next day, Catherine approached me while I was folding linens. She looked worse than before, her eyes hollow, her frame trembling. "You're the only one I can trust," she whispered, her fingers gripping my arm. "Something is happening. I can feel it." I placed my hands over hers, trying to calm her. "What do you mean?" Her eyes darted around, making sure we were alone. "Camilla knows something about Jack. She's been asking questions. To the staff. To my father. She's trying to figure him out." I stiffened. That was bad. Camilla's instincts were sharp, and if she uncovered too much, Jack's plan would crumble before it even began. That night, I watched as Jack and Camilla sat together in the lounge, wine glasses in hand. She leaned in closer than usual, her red lips curled into a knowing smirk. "Tell me, Jack," she purred, her fingers grazing his hand. "What's your story? You seem too interesting to be just a gardener." Jack chuckled, taking a sip of his drink. "I could say the same about you. A woman like you, surely you've got a few secrets yourself." Her eyes darkened with something dangerous. "Oh, darling. You have no idea." I swallowed hard. Camilla was playing with fire. But the thing about Jack? He didn't mind getting burned. He liked it. The night felt heavy, as if the walls of the mansion were closing in on me. Jack had spent the last few days weaving his way through Camilla's web, gaining her trust, making her feel invincible while secretly setting the stage for her downfall. I watched him work his magic, his charm an intoxicating blend of danger and allure, but beneath that, I saw his calculated precision. He was getting closer, and the tension between them crackled like a live wire. But Jack wasn't the only one playing a game. Camilla was dangerous, far more than I had anticipated. Her eyes carried a knowing glint, as if she sensed something brewing. I had caught her watching me more than once, a lingering stare that sent chills down my spine. She knew I was hiding something. And if she figured out the truth before we were ready, it would mean disaster. That night, the mansion was cloaked in eerie silence, the kind that wrapped around your throat and warned you of unseen eyes lurking in the dark. Jack and I had planned everything meticulously. Over the past few days, I had carefully observed Vincent's habits, learned the passcodes he punched into his office safe, and even discovered the hidden compartment in Camilla's study where she kept things she didn't want Vincent to find. The only missing piece was retrieving the evidence. Jack was eerily calm as we navigated through the dimly lit hallways, our movements synchronized in a way that felt almost natural. He carried himself with an air of certainty, as if breaking into a mobster's office was just another Tuesday for him. We started in Vincent's study. It smelled of cigars and power, the mahogany furniture gleaming under the low glow of a desk lamp. I quickly punched in the code I had memorized, one I'd seen him use while pouring himself a drink, the faint reflection of the numbers visible in the glass cabinet. Click. The safe door swung open, revealing stacks of cash, a loaded gun, and most importantly, a folder stuffed with documents. Jack pulled out his phone and began taking rapid photos, his fingers swift and practiced. Bank statements, offshore accounts, arms deals. Yeah, this guy's as dirty as they come, he muttered. I bit my lip. Hurry. Jack grabbed a USB drive from Vincent's desk and plugged it into the computer. While he transferred files, I moved toward a drawer I had seen Vincent lock before. Picking the key from his suit jacket, which hung nearby, I twisted it open and found a burner phone filled with coded messages. Jack snatched it up and pocketed it. Every second we lingered heightened the risk, but we couldn't leave without checking Camilla's study. We moved fast, slipping into her room like shadows. Unlike Vincent's cold, calculated space, Camilla's office was decadent, lavender candles, silk drapes, and an oak desk that held more than just business files. I found a small, ornate box, locked, but a quick inspection revealed the key hidden inside a perfume bottle cap. Inside the box, a tiny vial of clear liquid. Poison, Jack whispered, holding it to the light. A chill ran down my spine. That's how she did it, I whispered. That's how she killed Daniel. Jack slipped the vial into his pocket. We were almost done. One last place to check. The security room. It was a cramped space filled with monitors displaying various parts of the mansion. Jack sat down, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Camilla had someone delete the footage, I whispered. Yeah, but they were sloppy, Jack smirked. A few keystrokes later, and suddenly, the screen flickered to life, replaying a crucial moment, Camilla, entering Daniel's room, leaving minutes later with an empty vial. The timestamp was the night he died. Jack transferred the footage onto the flash drive, then wiped his fingerprints from everything he touched. We slipped out just as quietly as we had entered. Jack had arranged for everything to come to a head. That evening, I served dinner in the grand dining hall, where Vincent, Camilla, and Catherine sat at the long, polished table. Jack, in his role as the temporary groundskeeper, had been invited to join. It was a strategic move, one that placed him exactly where he needed to be. Vincent swirled his whiskey, oblivious to the storm brewing around him. Camilla, draped in an emerald green silk dress, leaned toward Jack, her lips curling in amusement. "You've been quite the help around here," she purred. "Maybe I should find a way to keep you on permanently." Jack smirked. "I wouldn't mind staying," he said smoothly, his gaze flickering toward me. "Though I tend to have a wandering nature." Camilla laughed, but there was an edge to it. She liked control, and Jack was the one man in the room she couldn't quite get a grip on. Catherine, seated at the far end of the table, barely touched her food. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a silent plea. She knew tonight was the night. Jack subtly adjusted his cuff, the signal we had agreed on. It was time. With a deep breath, I took a step forward, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "Mr. Vincent," I said, my heart pounding. "There's something you need to hear." Camilla's eyes snapped to me, her expression darkening instantly. "Olivia, what do you think you're doing?" Jack leaned back, his posture deceptively relaxed. "Let her speak." I turned to Vincent, my fingers trembling as I handed him a small flash drive. "This contains security footage from the night Daniel died," I said. "You never saw it because Camilla made sure you wouldn't." Vincent frowned, his thick fingers closing around the device. He turned toward Camilla, his expression shifting from confusion to suspicion. "What is this?" Camilla stood, her chair scraping against the marble floor. "This is ridiculous," she spat. "She's lying." "I wouldn't be so quick to deny it," Jack cut in, his voice dangerously smooth. "Because I've seen it too." A sharp inhale echoed across the room. Catherine clutched the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Vincent hesitated, then motioned for one of his men to retrieve a laptop. As the screen lit up, I felt the weight of the moment press down on my shoulders. The footage played in eerie silence. That night, unknown to anyone, Daniel was alone in his study. Camilla walked in with a glass of juice in his hand. Words were exchanged, tense, heated. Then, with a practiced motion, she reached into her silk robe and produced a small vial. She poured the contents into his drink, stirring it casually before handing it to him with a sweet smile. Seconds later, Daniel convulsed, his body seizing as the poison took hold. He collapsed to the floor, his limbs jerking violently before going still. Camilla watched, her expression unreadable, then calmly set the glass down and walked out of the room. Vincent's breath came in ragged gasps. His face paled, his fingers tightening into fists. "You," his voice was a low growl. "You killed my son." Camilla lifted her chin, her facade cracking only slightly. "I did what was necessary." Camilla had been standing at the entrance, watching in horror. As Vincent's gaze landed on her, she bolted upstairs. Vincent's jaw clenched. His breathing turned ragged. Then, without a word, he stood up and stormed out of the dining room. "Camilla!" Vincent roared, following after her. Jack and I exchanged a look. This was the moment we had orchestrated, but the final blow had to come from Vincent himself. I swallowed hard. Jack and I stayed rooted in place, our ears straining as heavy footsteps echoed above. Then, a scream. A struggle. A sickening thud. Silence. Vincent moved before anyone could stop him. In one swift motion, he was on her, his hands wrapping around her throat. Camilla let out a strangled gasp, clawing at his grip, but he didn't let go. Her eyes bulged, her lips parted in a silent scream. The struggle lasted mere seconds before Camilla's body went limp. Vincent staggered back, his breath coming in uneven gasps. The room was deathly silent. Vincent returned moments later, his face pale, his hands trembling. He looked at Jack, then at me. "She's gone." Outside, the distant wail of sirens shattered the silence. Jack had sent the evidence to the police, along with files exposing Vincent's illegal dealings. It was only a matter of time before they arrived. Vincent turned to Jack, his expression dark. "You set me up." Jack smirked. "I gave you justice. You chose the method." "Bastard," he growled, lunging at Jack. Jack barely flinched as the front doors burst open and a dozen officers stormed inside, guns drawn. "Vincent Blackwood, you're under arrest." As Vincent was shoved to the ground, handcuffed, and dragged away, I felt an unfamiliar weight lift from my chest. Catherine clutched my arm, her entire body trembling. It was over. Jack turned to me, his gaze unreadable. "It's time to go." 2 days later, Jack disappeared, just as I knew he would. No goodbyes, no promises, just the lingering ghost of his presence. I found a single thing left behind, a small lock of my hair, wrapped in a silk ribbon, left on my bedside table that he probably forgot to take it with him. I smiled sadly, brushing my fingers over it. Jack was gone, but I knew, somewhere out there, he was already onto his next story. And maybe, just maybe, our paths would cross again.
Jack may be here, maybe right next to you.